Hey, grateful day, y'all. Welcome back to the Reset series. My name is Dr. TK, and this is part four. And so, if you are joining us only on part four, then I would highly recommend that you check out the description box and you check out parts 1 through 3, because this is definitely a lead up series in which this part will definitely make sense. But of course, this is a fun topic because we are talking about designing a life first business. And specifically today, we are talking about resetting your year with how to actually take time off. And so, to give you a recap of why you want to go back and watch those other parts, is in part one, we really focused on your personal life first. That is focused on you putting into a calendar your personal obligations and other tips that I provided. In part two, we talked about operating in your genius zone and what that looks like in your business, personal life, career. And then in part three, we talked about tools and how you can automate and delegate, not just in your job or your business, but also in your home. And so in part four, we are today going to be talking about taking some real time off, but especially without pressure and without guilt. And so if that is something that you are excited about, you definitely want to stay tapped in. Hey, welcome back, y'all. If you are new here, I want to say welcome. My name is Dr. TK. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, therapist, business coach, and wife, mom, and everything in between, okay? Because that's what we're talking about in this series. And so let's go ahead and get to it. I thought what would be nice is if I created a acronym, what I call a framework, so that you can incorporate what we're going to talk about today. And so it is a simple process called reset. Okay. It is the reset method. And so this is vacation inspired. It is very easy to remember, reset. And so let's go over it. The R stands for, we're going to talk about reverse engineering your time off. The E is for establishing your seasons, what season you are walking into for this year, and not to really focus on exact dates, meaning things can change. We want to be flexible. The S is for separating time off and different types of time off. E is to ensure that you have the systems in place so that you actually can take time off. And then lastly, T is the only way we're going to know if we could take time off is if you can test it out, if you can reflect on how it worked. And I will be sharing a story about what that looked like in 2025 and also how you can tweak it for the upcoming year. Let's go ahead and talk about R. So, R, reverse engineering your time off. And so, first of all, let's remove some things from our vocabulary. I want you to stop saying things like, I just want to take 2 weeks off. And I want you to replace it with, I want 14 days off this year. They are the same thing in terms of context of time, but the way that your brain is going to register how you can actually accomplish that is drastically different. So think about it. When you say you want 2 weeks off, you have to find the week that works with you, your job, your business, your clients, your kids, your partner, everything. But when you say that you want 14 days off, you can take 2 days here, 1 day here, 5 days here. You can sprinkle it actually throughout the entire year. So, what it does is it helps you create time freedom because that's what we want, right? We want to be able to dictate what we do, how we do it, who we do it with, and or around who we do it with, and when can we do it in terms of time? And so this creates for you time freedom throughout the entire year, not just around the major holidays. And so this also helps you avoid forcing vacations that don't even feel restful. Let's be all the way real. If you have children, I don't care how old they are, but if they are school age kids up to teenagers or college kids that live in your house, when you take them with you on vacation outside of siblings bickering and fighting, at least that's my story with sons, it ain't no vacation. It is a drag down, redirection, multiple requests for 7 days straight. Okay, that's not relaxing. That doesn't feel restful. Okay. All right, let's talk about the E. Establish seasons, not dates. So I want you to remember 14 days, yours may be 21 days, yours may be 30 days. So you don't need to know the exact dates yet, but you do need to decide in what season of the year would you like to actually take this time off. So you can look at seasons as literal seasons like winter, spring, summer, fall, etc. Or you can say, based off of my quarters, if you're really focused on business activities, because that's also something you want to consider. So you want to look at business cycles. Business cycles are for the therapists that I coach that are in private practice. Their seasons are when our client show up rates a little lower. Maybe if they work with teenagers or parents of kids, it is the summertime. Maybe if they work with private pay, PPO insurance, deductibles have reset. Maybe it's January. You do want to pay attention to one, when do your clients or productivity slow down? Because that may be a great time to do some time off, whether it be, which we'll talk about in a moment, a vacation and or a CEO retreat. You also want to consider your kids' schedule, or if you have guardianship over a family member and such, you want to consider your time off. And will it really be time off, or will it be time with family mixed in? Because you really need to define what you want your time off to look like. And it definitely can be a blend of a couple of things. So, some examples that I want to give that I've practiced, that my clients and our communities have practiced, is what's called a CEO reset. So, you can do a CEO reset. Let's just say your kids are out for a week or two or a couple of days. You can do a CEO reset when they go back to school. So they go back to school on that Monday. Maybe your CEO reset is only from 8 until 4. Maybe your CEO reset is one day do nothing, the second day you plan out your next quarter. Totally up to you. But maybe the first day you go get a massage, you go get your hair, your nails done, or you do nothing, or you hang out with your partner. You choose, right? But you're going to do it when you actually have brain space to be present. Another example is time off after the holidays instead of during the holidays. So I know that sometimes by default, especially as a parent, we tend to say, oh, we're going to take a vacation that matches our kids' vacation. But like I just said, it's not really a vacation if you can't sit down and rest. So you also want to consider, do you need or want recovery days before or after big events? Big events can be personal. So I used to be notorious. We have not been in a home that's structured like my old home with like a huge backyard. And we live in a townhome right now, but I used to host a lot of parties. Okay. I am a party person. And I had to, or I chose to give that up because I don't like a certain amount of people being in my house and it's just too congested. And so we tried it one year, I think in 2022, but I haven't tried it since. And so what we've realized is when I host home events, even intimate ones for like my immediate family for Christmas, I don't sit down. I barely eat. I'm exhausted. Even if I've planned months in advance, I'm still exhausted before and after. My feet are burning. This literally happened on Christmas. I told my husband it felt like I ran like 10 miles, you know what I'm saying? And so you really want to be mindful of what you're choosing to plan before or after events. It can also be a business event. One of the things that I've coached my clients on who are in business coaching with me is that when they start coming to our in-person events, I would highly recommend that they get in a day before so that they can also slow down their brain from whatever they came from, the environment. And then I also would encourage them to leave the day after if they're not going to tack on some extra days to just hang out. And the reason for that is one, you want time to process what just happened at whatever kind of event you were at. Secondly, is you may want the brain space and capacity to actually maybe start executing on some of the things that are fresh in your mind before you go back home where there might be chaos or overstimulation. So now let's talk about the S. Let's talk about the different types of, time off. Okay. So there is no one way to reset. There is no one way to take a vacation. Okay. And if you do not know how much I love to vacation, check out some playlists that I'm going to leave in the description box because your girl loves to integrate life seasons on my channel. Okay. And so type 1 is real, true time off. So this means, hear me out, come a little close. This means, dare I say, no laptops, no tablets. I'll let you get away with a Kindle. Okay. But no laptops, no phone calls for clients, services, consultations, any of that. Okay. You're not making decisions for your business. You are off. This is one type. Okay. This needs to happen at least once per year, at least. And this can be, I know you're going to ask, how many days? There's no cookie cutter answer, okay? It depends on your life. But it should be more than one day up to a full week. You need to gauge what you are able to do based off of automation and delegation in your business. Because some of us that have had jobs before know if you've ever taken off 2 weeks in a row, your vacation does not kick in until your body says you're on vacation, which may not happen until day 8. Okay. Now, type 2. CEO retreats. So this is where you carve out time for intentional work toward your business. This is not high pressure work. This is peaceful work. This is journaling. This is mapping out your content calendar. This is mapping out what programs you want to offer or services you want to launch and sell. This is where you focus on strategic thinking. This is your time to reflect on the season that you are coming out of. And let me just insert this. This does not have to be only done in December. This can technically be done at the end of each month. This can be done at the end or beginning of each quarter. This is where you really set the tone for your vision. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs fall down because you're waiting until the end of the year to reflect on what you did do and what you should do in terms of pivoting to have the goal success that you want. Were you dreaming too small? Were you dreaming too big? Are you right on track? Okay. So I would also recommend if you have kids and you have activities on the weekends, including church, that you may want to do a CEO retreat in the middle of the week, especially if you're not taking off a whole week and there are no weekends required. You can set how you want your CEO retreat to look. So I am going to give you examples. You don't have to have it look like that. And what I will do, because there is a trip that I'm going to reference at the end of this video where me and my family went somewhere out of a few trips this summer. And on one of the videos, it was titled like Character Breakfast. But I started off the video with my version of a CEO retreat. Now the E is for ensuring that you have systems in place because this is where I see that fear is very much present. And it's not fear of you taking time off. It's the fear of what's going to happen when you do take time off. Okay. So this is directly correlated, connected with part 3 of this series. So make sure that you go back and watch that. So when it comes down to taking time off will only work when you have things that can be delegated, automated, and or they're in place, which means that you have systems that are documented. I'm talking about from your home to your business or your job. So let's go through the different ones. An example of home, if you're not taking your pet, a automated system would be that someone knows at a certain time to come over to feed the dog and walk the dog. That is a system, whether you think about it or not. It's automated. You give them times, right? When you think about your job, there may be, for me, I was a therapist at a 9-to-5 job. And so somebody needs to take over my caseload and still see my clients, or I need to put up something with my clients in terms of a system to let them know I'm not going to be here this week. Is there anything that is urgent that we need to talk about right now? This is an emergency phone call line. I'm putting in systems. My business the same way. And I can have social media be scheduled. I can tell my clients we're not meeting that week and tell them ahead of time. At the end of the day, you have been implementing systems, delegation, and automation, probably without even knowing it. But when it comes down to, for real, entrepreneurship in your personal life, you really want to think about these things before you take time off and don't learn the hard way by it falling apart when you're off and or when you're gone. Now, let's just say if you have not hired someone in your home to help you and or a system to automate to help you or a person in your business to help you, you can still create the process. You got a whole year, right? You can still document what it is. So like with your personal life, it's up in here. We'll have you written it down somewhere like on a notepad. If it is for your business, these are called playbooks, standard operating procedures. Everything that we do in our company has a checklist. Ideally, when someone even comes and babysits your child, if they're on a feeding schedule or they go over to their grandparents' house, don't you have a checklist? Don't you have a automated system? Think about it. So stop being allergic to creating a playbook for your life and for your business because you want to be able to hand off something to someone so that you can relieve yourself from any anxiety, any fear, any limiting beliefs, like everything's gonna fall apart. So, lastly, before I give you this juicy example in the uncut version, is the T. The T stands for testing out what you've built, and then you have time to reflect and to tweak whatever you've built, what worked, what didn't, so that you can do it again. What I mean by that is like you have a vacation or CEO days in January, you reflect on how well that worked with you, your life, your business, your career, and then you tweak it again when you go on a 1-day hiatus in March. So remember that when you are working on building up for time off, vacation, CEO time, mom time, couples time, whatever you want to call it, every year, every quarter is going to look different, but especially every year is going to look different. Why? You are in life seasons. You are in different life seasons. You are evolving. We are aging. We are maturing. If you have kids, your kids' schedules are going to change. They will either get easier or they will get more chaotic. Your business, your entrepreneurship journey is going to mature. You're going to need more things or less things. So I want you to learn how to reset for the future, because ultimately what we're talking about is taking ownership and leading your own life. Let's talk about this uncut version. Okay, we're going to call this like abundance tea time. So I'm going to give you a real life story of what happened recently. I had this aha moment in 2024, but it really hit home, y'all, in 2025. Okay. So, and talk back to me. Like, let me know actually in the comment box right now, would you rather do a full vacation or would you rather do sprinkle and double dabble in CEO days? Just let me know, like CEO days, vacay. Tell me. All right. So in 2025, I had this bright idea to have a live event that was technically not on the schedule in January, but we added it in the first quarter. So we opened up enrollment. We had, I believe, 11 to 12 therapists that registered, and our goal was to help them map out a launch process, for most of them, a digital product. So we met in New York, and when I was planning this calendar, initially, the kids were not supposed to come. They weren't supposed to come, y'all. I'm happy they came, but they weren't supposed to come. That actually, I'm gonna say on one end, it did make it easier initially to plan. But what started to happen real life is I started to recognize within our support system, for me to be gone for a certain length of time in New York, I don't even need to be gone that long because I contemplated going by myself, just going with a team member. My husband stays home with the kids, but New York is like me and my husband's spot too. And the kids have been asking to go back to New York because they hadn't been in a couple of years. And so I'm like, you know what? We could go by ourselves, but I want to bring the kids. And then what pushed me over to say yes is I started to recognize that the support system that I had had in 2024 was starting to get smaller, deteriorating. Some people are getting sick in my family. Some people are aging in my family. And it's just not appropriate, specifically for my youngest son, to be in the care of, certain people that he used to be in the care of. I'll just leave it there. We get older. So I just thought it would be easier for my sanity to not have to figure out what's going to happen when I'm gone. And so we decided to bring the kids. So we had to budget that in. So what I did is I front loaded, usually I backload our vacation time after my event, but I decided to front load it. I didn't know how I was going to feel, and I was cool. But to break it up, this was not a vacation. This was also not a CEO retreat. So I'm giving you this example because this was an example of a work trip that some people mix in and say, I'm taking a vacation. So it was a vacation for the family. For the parents, this was our first year recognizing our kids are 7 years apart for real. But it's specifically because they're 7 and 14 and they're boys. Oh my gosh, when I say the bickering would not stop, the level of energy, passing gas, it's just disgusting. Okay. So I'm just like, come on, we need like a 5-bedroom house so I can separate myself. And so, needless to say, the trip was fun though. We end up mixing in the trip, surprising the kids. I'll drop that vlog below. The whole series is below, the summer series. But we surprised the kids. We went to DC first. We celebrated 4th of July, watched the fireworks show, and then we went to New York. And then when I went to New York, my husband was on duty because I was off, meaning from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m., I was with my clients. Y'all can meet up with us when we go to the excursion. Outside of that, mommy's at work. Do not call me. Do not text me. And so moving forward, a week and a half later, I don't know whose bright idea this was. Oh, it was mine. Okay. And the reason it was mine is because this trip was actually planned first because it takes way more planning ahead of time to get this resort. So we are part of the Disney Vacation Club. What's called our home resort is Alani, which means that we get priority registration 12 months out to or 11 months out to book our room. So the kids hadn't been to Alani in I think a year and some change, right? And that may not seem far, but we used to go like 2 to 3 times a year at some point. And so I love being by water, and the water for me is my CEO retreat. So this is how you're going to drastically see the difference of like a vacation with kids turned into a work trip. Then a week and a half later, 10 days, we go to Hawaii. So with Hawaii, I took my laptop for the sake of finding activities. I did not work on any launches, talking to clients, scheduling emails. I ain't sending no email. I ain't having my team members send no email. I'm not doing nothing, right? The only thing I did do is say, you know what, this year feels different energetically. I did not realize that my energy would be drained 10 days before. So what I decided to do is every morning between the hours of maybe 6 a.m., because Hawaii is 3 hours and sometimes with the time difference, 2 hours behind us, I'm still wide awoke on my circadian rhythm. They're knocked out because they done stayed up 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care what time I go to sleep. I'm still waking up at 6 or 7 o'clock. And so I hear the water in the pool. I hear them turn stuff on the slide. So I'm all the way up because we got balconies. So I chose to sit on the balcony. We got a peekaboo of the ocean view. We're right in front of the pool. And the sound of water relaxes me. That's why I always need to be by water at least one time a year. And I will always call those a portion of my CEO retreat, if not the whole thing. So ultimately, what happened is I used those CEO mornings for me time. Drink my tea slowly. I stayed in my little Skims pajama set. I walked down and got me some hot cocoa with my little resort mug. I took walks on a beach and found other locations that I can take my husband and my kids later on that day because they may not have explored that area. It was just really nice to have time, but I sat on the balcony as well and I start having content creation ideas. I had ideas for my business when I can sit in silence, when my brain can be still. And specifically for me, I know myself when I'm by water, I think bigger. When I can see limitlessness, like the water never ending, it just brings a level of limitlessness in my soul. That's not even a word, okay? But ultimately, that was my version of my CEO retreat. And I emphasize my because yours don't have to look like that. I've had CEO retreats where it has been 3 days in a row doing planning for my business with yoga. Okay. Now, I want to move forward to giving you another example of when I start doing my reflection during the holiday. And this is where this pushed me over to 2026 has to be different. And if you're a parent, please hear me. If you have a lot of obligations and responsibilities at the end of the year, please hear me. If you feel burnt out in December, please hear me. Okay. So I realized this was the second year in a row. First year we stayed here. Last year we went to Walt Disney World for New Year's Eve. I was lit. It was fun. But your girl was exhausted when I came back home because of the boys and their energy. Okay. So I realized that 2 weeks off was definitely not a vacation, low key. It was just time with kids, restructuring and redirecting all day and being a parent, you know what I'm saying? And then it was not a CEO retreat. Now I did create content. I did not upload content outside of in my stories, like helping people see like our experience during the holiday for fun. Not so it was more for like getting to know me as a brand, as a mom, as a wife, but I'm also a business coach and a psychologist. But it wasn't for me to promote a product. Okay. I want to be clear about that. There was no pitches or anything like that, no automation during that time. I could have set that up, but the last 2 years I didn't. So those 2 weeks off for the last 2 years taught me that I need to, for 2027, I'm going to intentionally pull out my calendar over the next 2 weeks and I'm going to plug in a block out of at least 3 to 5 days post when my kids go back to school. I don't know how I'm going to divide it up right now, what I'm going to do, but I need to block it out so that there is no one-on-one coaching with our VIP mastermind clients. There is no virtual boot camps. There is no coaching. There is nothing. There is no mental health train. I'm not available. Okay. And that's how I want y'all to pull in the energy of saying no. If you do not reset yourself first, everything around you will feel chaotic, okay? So I want you to take away these reminders. Is there is no wrong way to take time off. The only mistake is actually not planning for it. Plan for it. That's why I made this series with the buildup of the 4 parts. And I believe in abundance. The pure definition of abundance is more than enough. So abundance, an abundant life, an abundant career, an abundant business, it includes rest, joy, being present, and enjoying your peace. So, what I want you to do, comment below one way that you want to take off this year. If you have details, tell me. If you want to go to an island, tell me that too. Give me some ideas. Also, tell me what is one boundary that you want to try? Meaning, are you going to set up a boundary and say, no, when it's my time, I'm not doing nothing. I'm not cleaning this house. I'm not even cooking. We better order in. Matter of fact, I'm going to a hotel by myself. Like, what is your boundary? Okay. So, lastly, these topics have been generated by conversations we have had in our community called InHer Collective. It is for women that are women entrepreneurs, life first business builders, which means that you desire or you're in the process of building a life first business, which means that there's a strategy about enjoying your life first so that your business will follow suit, not the other way around. What's the point of having a career and or a business and you can't enjoy the life? And so we are also looking for women who want to have a high capacity for bringing in joy inside their life. So we focus on a wide range of things, including but not limited to, of course, the work-life integration model, because we know a lot of us still work from home at this point. And there's a lot of balancing that takes place in our home or boundaries. We are focused on abundance mindset, bringing joy into your life, peace over pressure. And then we also started incorporating this year a bonus workshop where we focus on streams of income that will help you get the lifestyle that you want, okay? Including exposure to tools and not just ways to make money, but ways to organize what you are doing in your business, for example, with your money. So we have monthly, what I call connection meetings. And then we also have internal community challenges. And this series was part of the challenge that they have. So they have other things that they're doing inside the community. So if you want to join the InHer Collective, make sure that you check out the pinned comment that I have below. It has the questions that I want you to answer along with the link to sign up for InHer Collective. This is a great time of year to do it, to set the tone for what you want for this year. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Y'all are my family. You are my community for watching this series. No matter how long you've been part of the community, I want to say thank you. I love y'all. And of course, if you're new here, make sure that you tap that subscribe button, tap that like button. I would love to have you come back, revisit each part of the series, and most importantly, reset yourself for an abundant year. This is not just a strategy. This is an implementation call to action. I want you to start today. We want to build abundance practices in our life and in our business. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.